Any others wishing to speak? The member for Calgary Edgemont.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to speak in favor of Bill 201, the Fairness for Workers Act. I really appreciate the member for Calgary Mountain View putting forward this very important legislation. When I think about my residents of Calgary Edgemont, this is something that they need. This is something that would benefit them, and it should be a priority for all of us to be looking at raising wages and looking at protecting tips and stopping the nonsense of a two-level minimum wage. I had the privilege just before Saskatchewan raised their minimum wage to make us here in Alberta the lowest minimum wage in all of Canada, to listen to Janine Rogan, a CPA from the Wealth Building Academy, at a press conference where she painted a picture, and it kind of really put things into perspective for me, of a two-bedroom apartment in Calgary. We've heard it today, $1,900 a month. In Edmonton, $1,700. And at our current minimum wage, the lowest in Canada, a full-time worker earns $2,600 before taxes. But then after we pay the rent, there's barely enough left for our groceries, our gas, and for some people, childcare. Experts, Janine Rogan, said, no household should pay more than 30% of its income on housing. At today's rents, a family would need nearly $76,000 after tax. That's equivalent, and I want to put that into perspective, of 3 adults. 3 adults need to be working in that home for more than 50 hours per week at minimum wage just to get by. For years, we've heard about the so-called Alberta Advantage. That here, you can work hard, you can earn a fair wage, and build a life. But more and more, that advantage only exists in speeches, and it's not in real life, and I don't always see it anymore. And I hear so much about affordability and how wages are not matching income level or their bills. I can't be here today without talking about minimum wage or the tip-out program and how who those workers are that we're usually talking about. Because 60% of those minimum wage earners in Alberta are women. Across Alberta, women make up nearly 2/3 of all minimum wage earners. They are the servers, the cashiers, the early childhood educators, the cleaners, the house care aides who hold this province together. They are the same people who were called essential just a few years ago. Yep. And yet they're still being paid wages that don't cover their cost of living. Alberta hasn't raised its minimum wage since 2018 under the NDP, while every other province has moved ahead of us. We now have the lowest minimum wage in Canada and among the highest costs of living. So when this government talks about the Alberta Advantage, I have to ask, who's this advantage for? Because it's not right now. It's not for the single mom serving the tables, or the nursing aide pulling a double shift, or the cashier holding down 3 jobs just to pay for her rent. It's not an advantage when women are working full-time and still living in poverty. It's not an advantage when people provide care in our communities and can't afford to take care of their own kids. Raising the minimum wage and protecting tips are an equality issue, not just a labor issue. The gender pay gap in Alberta remains one of the widest in the country. On average, women earn about 17% less than men. And that gap, Mr. Speaker, is even greater for Indigenous women, racialized women, and newcomers. One of the biggest reasons is that women are concentrated in the lowest paid sectors: the hospitality, the retail, the care work, and food services, the very sectors that are relying on minimum wage. These are not easy jobs. They're emotionally demanding, they're physically exhausting, and absolutely, though, essential to our communities. But because they've historically been seen as women's work, they've been undervalued and underpaid for generations. Many women take these jobs because of the flexibility that they're needing with those hours. It's necessary. They're balancing paid work with unpaid caregiving for children, as well as caring for our parents and other family members. Alberta has one of the highest rates of part-time work among women in Canada, and most of it isn't by choice. It's because affordable childcare and stable full-time opportunities are out of reach. Add to that the barriers of higher paying fields, discrimination, limited mentorship, and lack of family-friendly policies, and you see why women are still concentrated in the lowest paid sectors. When we talk about the gender pay gap, we're now talking about individual choice. We're not talking about individual choices. We're talking about systems that are undervalue. They undervalue our care work. We expect women to always fill the gaps and then pay them less for doing it. Raising the minimum wage is one concrete way that we can start narrowing the gap today. When we lift wages at the bottom, studies across Canada have shown the gender pay gap narrows. Family gains stability. Food bank uses decline. Communities grow stronger. Alberta's women are working harder than ever, and it's time their work was valued accordingly. Families are paying among the highest electricity in the country. For student education, funding is the lowest in Canada. Insurance rates are the third highest in Canada. For working Albertans, wages simply haven't kept up to the cost of living. We cannot call it an advantage when people are working full-time, working multiple jobs, and still can't make ends meet. I truly appreciate the member for Calgary-Klein standing so bravely in this House today, sharing her story. Sharing the story of her with her mother, her with her daughters, and I am so proud to stand here every day with her in this House and all of the other moms and all of the other workers that have also worked minimum wage just to be able to make ends meet. Bill 201 will restore some of these balances. They will raise the minimum wage, they will protect workers' tips, and give every Albertan a chance for stability. I wanted to read a quote from a book, Mr. Speaker, that I am currently reading called From the Pink Tax. And I think it kind of summarizes the portion where I want to talk about women in the economy and raising the minimum wage. If we continue on without seriously addressing the financial discrimination against women, a 2020 World Economic Forum report suggests that we will not have equal economic participation until the year 2,277. That's more than 250 years. And I don't know about you, but that fact that my grandchildren are unlikely to experience economic gender parity is extremely troublesome. Bill 201 calls as well for the end of the youth wage, a policy that should never have existed in the first place. When the government cut the minimum wage for students under 18, it sent a clear message that your age determines your worth. But the cost of living doesn't change depending on your age, and neither should your paycheck. Youth don't have lower insurance bills. If anything, they pay more. There's no youth rate for gas or groceries. I think of my own 17-year-old son. He wants to work, but first of all, to get to work, it's going to cost him some money. He's going to need either gas money, he's going to need insurance on that vehicle, or he's going to have to take transit. But everything has gone up. Even if he could find a job, the youth wage wouldn't come close to covering those costs. Many teens, like my own child, was wanting to save for post-secondary, which under this government is becoming even more expensive. Bill 201 is a step in the right direction. It won't fix everything that Albertans are facing right now, but it's going to make a real difference for people who are struggling the most. The servers, the students, the single parents, the women, and the young people just starting out. Raising the minimum wage and protecting tips won't make anyone rich, but it will give people more breathing room and fewer impossible choices between rent, food, and utility bills. This bill gives us the chance to show that we value people's time, their labor, and their contributions to this province. I will stand up proud to support Bill 201.